So I have something positive to report. So yesterday, all that conversation about the hips being the culprit and not so much the ankles. Yesterday's session was essentially all about hip flexors, and I killed them. I did 10 sets of 50 each leg of simple marching. I call it marching, but it's essentially knee raises, standing knee raises. I would go one leg at a time, so 50, then 50. So I did that 10 times. Finished up the session, went about my day, and then before sleep, at probably 10 o'clock, everyone went to sleep, and I thought, let me do a bunch of more sets. So I ended up doing 7 more sets before sleep. And this morning I've woken up and I feel like half the damn issues have been resolved. Honestly, that's how good I feel this morning. So the anterior pelvic tilt has improved a lot since last night. Something that I don't usually do very often, sleeping on my stomach, on my front. I don't do that because my anterior pelvic tilt absolutely murders my lower back. So the following day I would wake up and my lower back is absolutely on fire because of that whole, abdomen protrusion and hyperlordosis in my lower back. I'd often wake up with a sore back if I sleep on my front. So I remember going back like 15 years, maybe even 20 years. When I was a teenager, I would wake up with sore backs. I always had that anterior pelvic tilt. And then when I started squatting and taking the weightlifting a little bit more seriously, I found that those symptoms even got worse. So then, I don't know, late teens, early 20s, I basically gave up sleeping on my belly altogether. It's all fine to kind of lay down for a little bit, as you're kind of tossing and turning before you fall asleep. But to sleep on my stomach, no way. It's basically booking in back pain. Last night, I slept on my front because the hip flexors were so exhausted. They finally let go, and my pelvis was able to kind of go into a somewhat normal, neutral position. So this morning I've woken up, I had a great sleep. I slept like somebody freaking shot me. So all of that lower back, pelvic, abdominal region was just relaxed because I annihilated the hip flexors. This morning I wake up and I'm walking around, I feel like my hips are loose. I feel free, I feel strong. Today was supposed to be my bench press day, but as I've kind of promised to myself, I mentioned it yesterday, hip flexors one day, calves the next. So today I did calf raises. Today I opted out to do, I'm calling them sumo calves. I don't know what else to call them, but basically wide stance, calf raises without any elevation, nothing like that. I'm trying to hit all different angles. So go wide, go narrow, feet together, go out like this, go in like this. So every day I've been kind of doing it differently. I've done consecutive days in a row, but now I'm kind of going one day hips, one day calves. So I did that. And the reason why I'm not doing it elevated is that there's a reason behind it. I've done also elevated in the last week or so. I've done lots of elevated calf raises, even back during basketball days. The trouble with that is, I feel like when you elevate the calf and you don't have a resting position at the bottom, you don't have an end range, you're basically bouncing on the Achilles, on the connective tissue. Now you can go slow, but when you're doing sets of 50 and 100, it's hard to go slow. So what I like to do is I like to basically rest my heels on the ground. That removes any of that elastic energy that might be stored in the Achilles, and then I can go back from like a dead lift type of situation. It's not a bouncing lift. I put my heels down and then I reactivate the calves. Now it might look silly, but it gets me lit up. And I always feel like if your calves are on fire, if you are getting a major pump, something is working. Not to say that when you're elevated, it's not doing that, but I feel like in the later sets, the bouncing gets really hard to kind of judge. As soon as it gets uncomfortable, subconsciously you're bouncing more and more, and it's kind of hard to kind of keep yourself accountable on that. But when there's a ground underneath you and you stick your heels on the ground, it's the elastic energy, the dissipates, whatever it's called, dissipates, gets neutralized because you are resting on the ground. So I did that, and basically I've been feeling really well. I ended up doing a front squat as well after I did the calf raises. Feels great. Front squats felt really great. Felt solid, felt in my kind of hitting position. I don't know what the term is in baseball. in that sweet spot. The bar felt exactly where I wanted it. You know, a lot of times when I kind of lift, and I often tell you guys, you know, it felt really bad, but a lot of weight moved. Other times I didn't lift the maximum weight, yet it felt really, really good. Well, it's kind of hard to kind of match the visual and the feeling, but today was a great day. Today I felt exactly where I wanted it. You know, I had good mobility. Everything was kind of like clicking. Now, obviously, the harder you push the hip flexors, the harder it's going to be for you to feel strong, but it's almost like a necessity. And so I guess you could kind of periodize, you know, these, you know, good squatting days. So for instance, yesterday I did the hip flexors, so I'm really exhausted today, even though the mobility is allowing me to move very nice. I don't have the top end strength. So tomorrow it's going to be 48 hours after hitting the hip flexors. And what I'll do is I'm going to try and come in and do some really nice squatting and then do the hip flexors afterwards. So then every 48 hours, I'm somewhat fresh to squat. And then after that freshness, I'm going to smash myself again and then cost myself another 48 hours of recovery with the hip flexors. But the hip flexors are unbelievable. The comment from yesterday, like, hit the nail on the head. I mean, you know, there's no doubt about that what I did yesterday has contributed to me feeling good today. Slept well, walking around well, I'm free. You know, it's really interesting, but I actually feel today, I talked myself out of it, but I really wanted to deadlift. That's how strong I feel in the kind of pelvic lumbar region. Like, I feel really solid because I've kind of been released from that tension that I've had. Now I kind of feel really, really solid, and I feel I can deadlift a lot of weight. I feel like I'm in my quads as well. So I feel like, without even touching the deadlift, I feel like I would have had a lot of leg drive because of that tension has left me. It's so weird how that tension builds up over time and builds up and builds up and builds up, and you don't really kind of notice it, how it sneaks up on you, and then eventually you get to a point where there's pain. Right now I'm feeling like, my God, like, it's so free. It's so freaking free, man. I mean, I did bench pressing today. Today, this is the thing, man. Like, I'm trying to fight not being that, you know, hard on the sleeve, go with the feeling too much, because today was supposed to be bench, and I want to bench today, and I did bench today. So I don't want to spend the whole day today, skip bench press, and spend the whole day today chasing this hip flexor business, squatting, deadlifting, and all that stuff. No, today is the bench press. So I have to be loyal to the bench press. I don't want to forget about the bench press again. I'm enjoying it. It's making me feel great. I'm getting a great pump. I don't know whether you guys can see, like, I mean, my pecs don't look like this normally, but, you know, I wish I could stay like this all the time. It looks full, feels great. The traps feel full, shoulders feel, triceps feel good. I just feel like pumped up from doing bench press. So that's a nice feeling, and I definitely don't want to let it go like I have in the past. You know, in the past, man, I would, you know, when the squat is treating me really, really badly, I'll forget about it and then try and get kind of like some solace, get some pleasure elsewhere in another lift, like a bench press, you know, or pull-ups or something like that. And then, you know, take it in your squats for a period. And then when the squat starts feeling really, really good again, I'll forget about that other exercise, like the pull-ups or the bench press. Now, I'm not forgetting about it. I definitely want to keep it every other day in the bench press, regardless of what's happening with the squat. I can't be that volatile and sensitive with the squatting and the deadlifting, because, you know, a lot of times when I feel shit with the squats, I don't want to train anything. I just want to freaking go inside and get on with life. I really don't want to do anything. But now I'm like, okay, bench press always feels good to me. Always feels good to me. It's just, I can put so much damn volume into it and nothing happens. Nothing hurts. The elbow is starting to feel better and better. Like, initially, when I first unrack the bar, the elbow feels a little bit shitty, but then with reps, it starts to kind of feel good again. So bench press is great. So no deadlifting, no major squatting, not doing anything. Tomorrow I'm going to come in and try and squat. But it's so exciting when you come in and you feel this well. It's incredible the turnaround from yesterday to today, simply doing hip flexors. So if you have anterior pelvic tilt, if you are somebody that's listening to this and going, yeah, I'm skeptical, man, just try one day. Absolutely annihilate the shit out of your hip flexors. Pick anything. I like unilateral stuff, right? I like unilateral work because as one leg is going up, the other one is down, and that keeps the pelvis locked in. Whereas if you do the reverse squat, you'll have the posterior pelvic tilt. You'll have both of the pelvis moving as a unit. But when you have only one leg bending and the other one straight, what's happening there is that you're kind of like rooting the pelvis because of the down leg while the up one is working. And so I feel like you're targeting hip flexors a little bit better than if you're doing bilateral. Bilateral causing the rectus abdominis and all this other stuff. So I feel like if you're doing unilateral stuff, it's going to be a lot better and much more isolating on the hip flexors, the psoas iliacus, rectus femoris, probably TFL and some adductor magnus fibers as well. So I'm not going to be a numbskull and try and do hip flexors again today. You need rest. Obviously, after yesterday murder session, I need rest. So today no hip flexors, today calves. Tomorrow go back into it and hopefully I feel well tomorrow as well. So I forget the name of the commenter. Princess Don, I think it was. Thank you for reaching out and leaving that comment. I don't know whether you realized that you were going to have that impact on me. Sometimes, I mean, maybe you guys can attest to this. Sometimes you have the information in your head, but because there's so much information in your head, you don't really know which one to kind of pull out and which one to think about. And oftentimes, information gets lost in your head. But when you have somebody else articulate that same information, or even better, in a better way, it makes sense. It's almost like it comes from another angle and it kind of like, you know, it makes the light shine upon the issue from a slightly different angle and it kind of grabs you. That's what you did for me. You highlighted hip flexors again and I was like, man, you presented that argument so well that I was like, I can't argue against that. He's making sense. He's making sense. I have to entertain that. And I've been there. I've done hip flexor training in the past and I've had good success with it. But then hip pain came back and I got disheartened and moved away from it. But now, like, I know that no matter what I end up doing with the squat volume and the intensity and the weight I lift, I always have to make sure that I increase the volume and the progression of the hip flexor training as much as I'm doing with the squat. And always pay attention to the pelvis. If you're spilling water too much to the front, you are approaching that hip pain type of period. So if I wake up in the morning and I feel like this, I know I'm not going to have pain because it's just I'm restored. There's no tension. But if I try and squat, say I've booked in a squat session, a 5x5 or something really, really taxing in the squatting form, something really, really hard on a day where I don't have the mobility and I don't have that balance of the pelvis, book it in. Book in pain for the next couple of days. So I need to be disciplined. I need to be very, very aware of how to read the symptoms. Kind of like when a patient comes in, you're doing your vital signs, you're taking a history, you're understanding what's going on, and then you make your decision. Man, I always say this to myself, but that's how you have to be with training as well. Wake up in the morning and be like, okay, what's the patient presenting with? If the patient is well, it's a different thing than if the patient is critically unwell. If I am the patient, if my hips are shit, locked in, anterior pelvic tilt, and I have shit mobility, it's probably a bad idea to freaking load that shit up with maximum weight. It's probably a bad idea. Back that shit up, do some other stuff, hip flexor training, go crazy on that. You can still get your high of training really hard, but you're not costing yourself a lot, in the back end. So very happy. I'm very happy today. I don't know whether you guys can hear it. It's very uplifting, especially when you rock up every single day and you have like 2 weeks of sucking shit, and then you have that brief period where the clouds part a little bit and there's a bit of sunlight, and you have like 30 minutes during the day where it's just pure bliss. Man, it's so worth it, man. All that darkness that you go through, it's so damn worth it for that freaking 30 minutes of sunlight. Beautiful, beautiful feeling. So that's what I'm feeling right now. And that's the biggest reason, that's like the biggest high that I get from this YouTube game. It is by far the biggest, highest feeling when I engage, you guys engage with me, and there's dialogue there. There is brainstorming there, and you guys help me. It's a beautiful thing. It's an absolute beautiful thing because it's a community of like-minded people sharing the ideas, and it's awesome. And judging by, I don't know anything about this guy that commented yesterday, Princess Don. I've got no idea who this guy is. But the way he articulated his stuff, he sounds like he knows his stuff. He could be even a physiotherapist. Could be someone like that. Who knows? But the way he like presented it, I was like, damn, that shit makes sense. And voila. I implemented that stuff. Not exactly what, you know, he talked about jumping and whatnot. I did my own kind of like hip flexor training. But he said basically train that, and I trained that, and voila. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The 160 moved well today. Stacked, feeling upright in my legs. Beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, guys, appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.